You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold, episode 35. Can't believe it. We're at 35 already. Today we welcome in our good friend Siddharth Marwah. How are you?
I'm good, Benny. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, we've been trying to do this for a little while now, and I'm pumped to get you on. Senior associate.
And I think before starting, I would just like to say that you're doing an amazing job with Lawyer Stories.
Thank
you. I keep on seeing the amount of stories you share every day, and they're people from all over the world, right?
Yep.
And you have these stories and the very concept that you've come up with, that, that every lawyer, be it a law student, someone who's aspiring to be a lawyer, who's in the profession, that they all have these different stories which they want to share with everybody. And, that platform which you're giving everybody globally, I think you're doing a brilliant job with it.
Well, thank you so much. That's really kind of you. That's really kind of you to say. I really do appreciate those kind words. And for everybody out there, I did not ask Siddharth to say that. I didn't pay him anything. That's a very nice endorsement. And it means a lot from an accomplished attorney out there, actually in New Delhi, India.
New Delhi.
Today. Right. So I really do appreciate that. I've worked very hard to build a community, and I want this to be a huge networking community, with lawyers and law students. And we have a website we're working on, thelawyerstories.com. And we're only going to grow. We're going to keep growing, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. And we did feature you back in January 2020. So you told us your story. It was great. You're very, very nice guy, very receptive. Like, you could even tell in your photo from I think it was January 7th or January 8th, 2020. Yeah. You're smiling, you look very professional. And so you start off your story by talking about your grandfather, your maternal grandfather, he was a criminal advocate, right? Is that what you call it there? Can you just tell us a little bit about like what that was, like what he did?
So my grandfather was a senior advocate there, and he did mostly practice in criminal law. So he was out there, and he's worked on a lot of these big cases in the country. So growing up, mostly his idea of law was, going to the courtrooms, getting people bails, helping people, so that absolute idea of justice system which you have that is what he was into. And that's what really inspired me growing up.
So he was doing big cases, like big, was he
correct.
defending?
So, from different types of criminal law like you have, right? So the criminal justice system, which is there. So his practice, like I personally right now, I am more in the corporate or commercial side of things.
Right.
So, correct. I'm into the mergers and acquisitions and the joint venture, that side of the work. But his was in the proper criminal justice system, as he would have.
Yeah, right. So what exactly did he do? Was he defending people, did you say? Or was he...
He's defending people, right? Okay. So he's defending people. So you have people who were, say, victims, or families of victims from different cases. He's represented political families in our country also in a lot of criminal cases which they had against them. And he went on. So say, you have like your criminal system would be that, say, there's a murder accused or somebody who's a victim of family of somebody who's, on that side, you help them get justice, or you help the person who's been wrongly accused of that, help them get bail or help them get justice. So towards the criminal side, his practice side was mostly on the criminal justice.
Okay. So you said in your story that most of your family was in the criminal, whoever is the lawyers in your family were in the criminal law, but you took this turn and you went into corporate. So like, tell us about when you realized like you wanted to go into corporate and doing the equity and all private equity deals and all that, like what you do now. And by the way, Siddharth is a senior associate at Khaitan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Khaitan and Company.
Khaitan and Company. So So like, when did you realize, and like why, like what got you interested in the corporate side of things?
So, very frankly, how it all started, so throughout law school, all my internships and everything, they were all focused towards litigation. I was really inspired by my grandfather, and I thought that, I will also, once I pass law school, I'll also go into full-fledged, I'll go into litigation, you know and so that's what all my internships are also focused at. So I never during my entire law school did even a single internship which was focused towards the corporate sector or towards
Yep.
private equity and but what so happened was once I finished law, after finishing law school, I thought of taking corporate law as an experiment. I thought that I've never tried it throughout law school, so why not say do it for 2 3 months, see what is there towards that side of the law, and then eventually move towards litigation.
So do you
But
remember, let me just stop you right there. Do you remember like the first transaction you did or something that sort of like caught your interest in it? Do you remember what that was like? Like, was it a smaller
yeah,
transaction?
so when I started my law career, I started in this boutique law firm called Indus Law. So today they've become really huge, and I think in the past 6 years that I've been working, they've become really huge. But that time when I had started, they were also starting up. So they did a lot of work for a lot of startups at that time.
Right.
So a lot of these startups which are happening, and see, 6 years ago was a time when the new government was in India, and there was this entire push for this whole Make in India campaign, and inviting people to make more and more foreign investments in the country. So that atmosphere was there a lot in the country. So, to give a push to the manufacturing sector, bring in more jobs, bring in more foreign investment, that entire Make in India concept, that was a lot which was happening in the country. So in that background, when I started my law, we were working with a lot of startups. So this entire idea, when I started this first transaction back then, so we were helping this one startup which was there. It was in your e-commerce sector. So the e-commerce sector startup which was there, and we were helping them raise their funding, and that actually helped me. So I realized, I saw their business model. I saw that they were creating jobs,
Right.
and we were helping them get. So the founders, they came with a vision. So the promoters, they were driven people, they were passionate people. They had a vision that they wanted to create this business model. They wanted to create jobs. They wanted to do a lot of things.
And does that have to do with, you mentioned, I don't mean to stop you, but you mentioned, and I have in my notes from your story in January, the Make in India campaign, right? So does that have to do with it?
Sorry?
It's called the Make in India campaign?
Yeah. So that was just, so Make in India campaign was something which the government at that time, it's what it was pushing. So basically with the idea to create more jobs in India. So the idea was to get more and more foreign investment, to what they call the ease of doing business in India. See, before this, what was happening was that a lot of foreign companies, they were trying to make their investments in the country. But you see, the laws which were there, they weren't that conducive. So there was a lot of red tape which was there. It used to take a lot of time for your processes to get complete. So because of that, there was a discouragement. So the idea at that time when the government came was to make it easy for people to invest in the country, to just reduce the red tape which was there, to make it mostly under the automatic route so that there's no approval required. You can, if you want to invest in a company, you can directly come and invest. So they started doing that. So then there was a lot of push by the government towards that. Okay. There were a lot of policy changes to that effect. There was a lot of campaign what the government was doing in order to make the country more lucrative. So the idea, I think at that time mostly was to make India a manufacturing hub in Asia, to, in order to increase more jobs which were there.
Okay. Wow.
So that was the government campaign which is there, and it's still there. I think the government keeps on saying so over the past 5-6 years. So this the ease of doing business index which is there, which keeps on coming, which is the global index which is there. So India has really risen up over there in the ranks over there. And what they keep doing is, in India right now, the government keeps on bringing these new regulations, and they keep on working towards it in order to make it more lucrative and easy for you. So like today, if I want to set up a company in India, it's very easy. So even if say I am a foreign company who wants to set up a subsidiary in India, things have become much easier than they were say 6 or 7 years ago. So that's what they keep on working towards.
Wow. Okay. So it actually has made some progress, the campaign.
It has made some progress because I think that is something which the government took very seriously when they came in. You see, the idea is that today we are living in a globalized world. You need more investment. You need people to come and invest in your country in order for you to say, increase jobs, create everything. Nobody's self-sufficient.
Startups, right? You were working with some startups, right?
So and startups require the most funding, right? You yourself know that when you start something, you have your vision, you require that initial push because a lot of people and these promoters, and when I started interacting, when I started working with them, and when I started interacting, what I saw was that they're really driven, they have passion, they have that vision. They want to make a difference. They want their product. They're very passionate about the business model which they have. But a lot of them, where they fail, is that because we all know that in every startup, there is a lot of burnout. So you burn a lot of money initially until you break even. So till that point that you don't break even, there is investment involved. So you need to invest in the vision. And at that time, you see, so that really, when I got started with this, helping that person, helping those founders achieve their vision by helping them get that initial funding.
Right.
That really helped me. So, and you understand one point of it, you were doing that, but at the same time, trying to make sure when we are drafting it for them and when we're acting as a lawyer for a startup, you have to make sure that they also retain control of that company. Yep. So they give the right and all the requisite protections that you have to give to the investor. Yep. But at the same time, the day-to-day functioning is something we help them retain in the company so that they can carry out their vision the way they want to. You obviously try and give whatever financial protections the investor may want, but at the same time, you try that the day-to-day control that remains with the founders. So that idea about getting them investment, helping them, create jobs, not being an impediment for a lot of people when from the business side of things, when they enter into a transaction, they feel that maybe the lawyers are an impediment towards the entire transaction. Right. So the idea always is that, try and get the deal done as quickly as possible, but at the same time, just make sure that the promoter has enough leeway and enough space to work towards what they want.
You ever see
when we started
a question about some of these businesses that I don't know how many businesses you've worked with startups, and they all have business plans and they know what they're going to be and what they want to be. But have you ever seen a business that sort of has like had an initial idea and then like evolved, like they kind of changed course a little bit, or like they figured it out as they gone, or is it really not like that? Most startups kind of have like a vision, right, from the outset about what they're going to be, right?
So my experience mostly has been that a lot of these startups, they have that vision from day one. They know where they have to be. And it's mostly what people invest is in that business plan, which they show.
Right, okay.
So they show a 5-year plan to you, tell you that this is where we will use your money. And that's where they go.
If they're getting money from somewhere, the person giving the money is going to want to know exactly like what they're doing. So,
exactly.
All right. That makes sense. Okay. Very good.
So that way, when I started, and very frankly, so when I started, I saw that I maybe had a knack for these things. So these things, when I was doing those negotiations, when I was doing the drafting, maybe those things came naturally to me going about it, that some things make sense from business perspective, some things don't make sense from business perspective, maybe. And, when I started going about it, I maybe realized that maybe I'm not that bad at it. And what started as an initial experiment for 2-3 months, it's been more than 6 years today.
Wow. That I've been really just liked it. You took to it. It was something you just wanted to do and it felt right for you. And you just didn't sort of go you're still obviously as your family, you have some family who are lawyers. So like you're still maintaining in the legal profession, but you're just doing a different type of law. That's great.
Exactly. So I'm more in the commercial side of things, and I'm more in the corporate commercial side, transactional law, as you may say.
So I heard, we're talking about campaigns and India had a campaign to like grow businesses, but I think somebody else might've had a campaign. Did you have a stint in politics or what?
Can you tell us a little bit about when I was in law? Yeah, so basically, I had a stint when I was in student politics. Basically, when I joined law school. So, Delhi University has one of the biggest student elections in the world.
Delhi University.
So,
Okay, they have a big.
Delhi University, so which is there, the Central University in Delhi. So,
Okay.
it has one of the largest student elections in the world. And it's brilliant. So, that in Delhi University, what happens is that you have people coming in from all over the country. Correct. So you have people coming in all over the country. You have a mini India, so from all walks of life, because everybody. So the thing with these government colleges is that the fee is very affordable, and they provide you high, top-notch education. So it's not the finances mostly are not that big an impediment for students, and you get that equal opportunity. So you have people from different walks of life who are there studying over there. So when I went over there, so that I started with my first year at law school. So obviously the initial idea when you entered law school was just to study law, participate in those moot court competitions which were there, work towards legal aid, all the basic stuff which is there, regular stuff. But I still remember when in my first year I entered law school and I saw the election campaign which was happening. And I was seeing over there and I was seeing people campaigning, and politics was something it's always been in my mind. I feel that it is a tool which can help you change, which can help you make a change. See, you can be idealistic in life. You can you can want to do a lot of things in life. But the fact remains that you require power, some amount of power to be able to do and bring about some positive change. Otherwise, obviously, you can push a lot of things. You can push campaign for a lot of policies to come into the picture. But if you're sitting over there in a position where you can actually make those decisions, that obviously helps. So I remember when I started seeing those campaigns which were happening in college, I felt that this is something which I can do. And mostly because when I joined, I felt that there was a vacuum over there. I joined and I saw that there was a section of students over there who came from, say, the rural background, who came from rural India.
Okay.
I realized that those people were not getting that much representation. Maybe because people took their vote for granted, or people thought that maybe, their vote was not worth going after.
Okay.
So I felt that there was that vacuum which was there. And somehow at that time, when I was seeing my first year in law school, I saw the entire campaign. Something told me that this is something I can do and this is something I want to do. And at that time, I did not have any political affiliation. And I did not have any political party which was backing me. So what happens in the Delhi University system is that the two national parties which you have, one is the Indian National Congress and one is the BJP, which is currently in power. They both have one student body as their representative in the student elections. Okay. But I personally did not have the backing of any one of them because I was, completely new into politics. So I was mostly standing as an independent candidate at that time.
So you were,
you
were in law school at the time?
Yeah, I was in law school.
Okay. And this is at the big New Delhi University. Like how many students?
No, so this election, what I'm talking about was in the law school only. So it was faculty of law, Delhi University only. Okay. So I stood for the law faculty elections, which were there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there are student bodies in every law college, which are in every college. Yep. And then there is a central university. So I did not stand for the central elections. This was for the law.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Faculty election there. So the law faculty in itself has more than 3,000 students, which is there. So
wow. Right. Big.
More than 3,000 students which are there. And so we had that election and I started campaigning for it. So something, and when I started doing it, it really changed my perception towards a lot of things. When I started campaigning, I met people from different walks of life, people who would come from rural parts of the country. When you meet these people, you understand that everybody has, like you obviously know, everybody has a story.
Oh, yeah.
They all have a story. They all have their ambitions with which they come. And at the same time, they all have these problems which they're facing, these little impediments which they have in life, and even while studying. And, the idea that maybe somehow you can help them achieve their goals, I think that's a very big driving force when you start doing this. Yep. When you start socially engaging with people. And I'll tell you this, and I started my campaign. And I'll tell you this today, I've helped people get their fee waived. I help them get, I know people who having financial problems. I've, written to the university, help get their fee waivers for them, or help getting them scholarships or getting them funding for their education. Today, I'm seeing them do well in life. You interact with them. I've helped them, some people secure jobs at that time, get correct internships. And that social engagement, which I saw at that time, that a lot of people, they just needed that little push in life and maybe just that little hand holding at that time. Wow. And they've done so brilliantly well for themselves today. So I think that nothing gives you a better push than, seeing all of that.
So you really, and I know we're going to talk about your legal aid in a little while. And I know, so you really do love helping people. I mean, you're literally hands-on helping people, like, get money for school and like showing them the path, like how to, giving them that little push. I mean, so that really drives you. That really inspires you.
That, and so when I was a kid, there were two things which my father told me, and I think those have stuck with me throughout my life. I think, this very analogy which he had. So when I was a kid, I was, I don't know, idealistic, had this idea of a utopian world. And I told my father that, I don't want to do anything else. I just want to completely immerse myself in social work. And, that's all I want to do.
Yeah.
But he said, that is good. But you also need to firstly work on yourself and work on your career and be something and be in a position that you can help people.
Right.
He said, imagine that when you go through life, it's like climbing a mountain. Now, say you're standing at the bottom of the mountain and you with people, you want to help them climb up. You will have to push them up. And that's difficult. But imagine you've put in a little bit of hard work in life and you've climbed that mountain a bit. Now what you have to do is you have to extend your arm and pull them up.
I love that.
That's much easier.
I love that.
So that's much easier than life.
I love that. And that's such a good perspective, because a lot of people are not like that. A lot of people don't want people to achieve things. I mean, you might not think so, but that's
correct.
That's how people are. I mean, and
this is the second part of the thing which he told me.
Yeah.
So he said that now once you start climbing that mountain, you may feel tempted to start running alone and going up alone. But now imagine that you're running alone, climbing that mountain, all by yourself, and maybe you slip. You'll slip and you'll keep rolling down and come back down because there'll be nobody along there. But now if you would have kept extending that hand and pulling people along with you as you moved up, and then imagine somewhere down the line when you're about to reach up, you slip. There'll always be a helpful hand somewhere down, right nearby, which will extend that hand and stop you and arrest that fall. So that idea about taking everybody together and that idea that you should not be alone in that thing, I think was inculcated in my mind as a small kid, which has, been with me.
That's amazing. So, and you're living by those words, truly. So that's great. Tell us about, and because you even launched a scholarship, right? Like, do you have a scholarship fund? So tell us about that.
So nothing, my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago, and so obviously me becoming a lawyer, a large part, or obviously I think the entire credit of it goes to the fact that growing up, I was really inspired by him. And I, had that idea that, I wanted to be a lawyer ever since I was a kid, and then I saw him. So when he passed away, I was thinking about a lot of ways on, how to honor his memory. And one thing which is obviously, I thought that, there are two things which are very close to my heart that I obviously, because when I was in law school, I did see that, if that those people, like I was telling you, whom I've helped get those funding for their, college fees or help them get the fee waiver at that time, I really saw how that helped people out.
Yeah.
So I thought that maybe, and especially last year when I launched the scholarship, it was the year when everybody around us was facing the crisis because of COVID. COVID came, the pandemic came, and it hit everybody, unaware.
How was
So
it?
I was seeing that.
We'll talk about that after, but okay, so go ahead. Tell us more about the
So
scholarship.
I saw that people were having a lot of problem because of that. And maybe, in my small way, if I could help those people who really required it, whose families were hit really badly by it, just take some burden off their shoulders and see, I genuinely believe everybody wants to have a fighting shot at life. Everybody wants that platform where they can work for themselves. You see, it's easy to say that everybody should fend for themselves, but sometimes they don't have that equipment, they don't have those things which they require to fight for themselves. So if you can just provide them with those basic things, take a little burden off their shoulder, you will be amazed at what people can do. So, I just thought that maybe through the scholarship, I just take that little burden off people and, and because if God has been kind enough and if I am today in a position that I can do it for them, then I think why not?
So
because if tomorrow, sorry,
who can apply for the scholarship?
So basically, the scholarship is mostly we'll choose students based on merit, but the criteria is your economic status. So if you cannot afford this education over there, if your family, so we in India we have something called a BPL card, or which is a below poverty line card. So if you people who are economically backward, who don't have money, whose families don't have money to sponsor their education, or people who've taken loans to get their education through things like that. So it's mostly targeted towards those people.
So is it like once a year you're doing this, or how often?
So once a student gets enrolled with us, so we will take a student in the first year, and once the student gets enrolled with us, we look after their education for the next 3 years.
Oh wow! Okay. So how many students get a scholarship? Is it one student?
So starting the program right now with 5 students.
Wow.
So because this is the first year, so we're starting with 5 students, the scholarship. And let's see, hopefully, I think it should grow from there. But right now, we're starting with 5 students.
And who sponsors the whole thing? Is this just all you, or how does that work?
This is my personal savings and a personal.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. What a guy. Jeez, that's incredible. So back to the politics thing. Do you think you'll go back to politics like full time? Like, are you thinking about that? Or, I know obviously you're a practicing lawyer, and I don't know how you feel about doing the politic thing.
So I don't know, maybe somewhere down the line, I do want to, because see, the ultimate thing is, like I've said, for me, politics is a way to bring about change. Right. And I genuinely feel with my time that I've spent at student politics, I really saw that in all fairness, when you're in charge of, say, I was vice president of the faculty of law, so in the Delhi University law faculty. So even at that time, I saw that the social engagement that I was able to do and the people I was able to help, I genuinely saw that there was a real difference, or at least some difference that I was able to make in their lives, no matter how small.
Yep.
And today, like I told you, when I see that people are doing well in life, I know the limitations. I'm not there. I don't claim that I want to change the country or I want to change the life of each and every person out there. But in my small way, if I can make that difference, even in the smallest number of people, I think it's worth giving it a shot. And politics gives you that chance. It helps you connect. It's nothing. It's when you're there in public life, people know that if I'm an elected representative for them, or if I'm holding some position of power, they know that this is the person they have to reach out to in order to solve their problems. So if nothing else, it helps them, gives them a face where they can come and they can connect. And if you're accessible to them, it gives them hope. So I feel that I think it's something which is close to my heart, and I don't know what's the right time for it. I don't know when that happens, but that's definitely something which I want. And I keep getting, a lot of people from different parties. They keep coming to me and, wanting to engage me in different activities which are there, which I do, from every now, time and again, I try and get involved with a lot of these activities which are there. But full time, I don't know when that happens. So I think a lot of things in my life, like my first election, I just go with the flow. When I see that maybe it's the right time, I think you know when you know. I think a lot of things.
And I think, you have this like great trait of just wanting to help people. And one thing I really want to know about too is like your work with legal aid. When you started that, like what kind of work you were doing? If it's legal aid, was it like domestic relations? Was that a criminal law type of thing? Or like, what were you, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, when I entered law school, I started getting involved with the legal aid clinic, which was there. And I, in fact, helped set up the legal aid clinic at that time. And I was the convener and in charge of that clinic, which was there. And over there, when I started, doing it, and it's a very interesting story. So I think the first time when we started at our first trip, we visited Tihar jail. So Tihar jail is this jail in New Delhi, which is a central jail where, you have a lot of people who are locked up. When I went to the prison, when I first visited, from the legal aid clinic at that time, the legal aid society, which we had, I met a lot of people who had their stories. A lot of those people, somebody was there in that prison for the past 3 years because he stole 500 rupees from somebody.
How much is that now? Just to say how much 500 rupees is, like, is that, I don't know how much that is.
Less than $10. Less than $10.
$10.
Okay. And it's a small amount, even in India. So, and I saw them, and that person was in jail for 3 years because nobody from his family, because he couldn't afford legal help. He wasn't getting proper legal help. And nobody came to, get him out. And he was there. And this is just one story that, there were a lot of these other people, women who were, falsely accused and who were there in jails, were rotting there in prison. And you realize that maybe not everybody has that kind of access to justice. Right. When you are there sitting in your house, when you are, living about your life, maybe, in this urban setup that we have in cities, maybe we don't come to know that what is the plight what other people have. There are people who've come from the rural parts of the country to the mainland India, to New Delhi, to get jobs, to make a life for themselves. And maybe when they fall into, when they have a problem, and because you see that people who have a little bit of connection or people who can afford good lawyers, they get away with a lot of things. Right. But at the same time, that person who did not have access was there in the jail for 3 years. And that makes you genuinely question a lot of things.
Was there no public defenders there, or like anybody?
No, the public defenders. You have that same system which is there, but obviously there, it's not 100%. It's not foolproof. And because the population is also so much. See, I'll tell you, it's not like the government doesn't want to do it, or it's not like the public defenders over there don't want to do it. Maybe there's just a huge sheer volume of cases which are there, that person's case is not priority, because there are people who are there for murder cases, there are people who are there for rape cases, and there's so many other cases which are there. So maybe in that huge burden and workload which is there, his case is not priority. So that is where legal aid comes into picture. Your idea is to supplement what is already there and to help them get justice and help them provide that platform to get it. And that's when I started, I think so these experiences which I've had growing up, and, my first instance as a kid that I had was, and then when I realized that there's this huge disparity, which is there in the society, was when my father, when I was I was 14, 15, and my father, he gifted me a watch, and I was really happy and excited about it. And I was wearing that new watch, and I was just taking a walk down the road. And down the road, we had a person, so we had a house help who was working. So somebody down the road. Okay. And his kid, he was playing over there. So the kid was there with the father, who was a house help at somebody's place. And so that kid got really excited when he was playing, and he came to me and he saw my watch. He got really fascinated. And he called his father, and, he told his father that, I also want something like this. I also want this watch. And I saw that expression. I still remember very clearly and very distinctly expression which that person had in his face, because he knew he couldn't buy that for his son. So that there was this sense of, I don't know, disappointment, or there was facial expression which he had. And, that gave me a lot of guilt. I don't know. So that gave me a lot of guilt for, just taking a lot of things for granted. For me, it was just a gift which came. And I think it's just these one or two instances which stay with you a lot. But that day when I saw that, as a kid, I saw that person's expression, it made me feel guilty for a lot of things I took for granted. And, that been there in my mind. I think, that's something which really plays in my mind. That whenever I want, that's, I think, so those things have really shaped me up, those instances. But I feel that there is a divide, that people are less fortunate. People have problems. And if you are fortunate enough, or if you have the privilege to be in a position to help them out, and I think if you can, why not? I don't see any two ways to that. And legal aid is just another way of helping them out. And I've seen, and when we started that clinic, we started it in college. We used to have 2-3 lawyers come over there and sit. Yeah. And we started an awareness campaign throughout, in nearby areas, calling people to just come, and making them aware of the basic rights which they had. And that nobody can just come and arrest you or do this. These are the basic rights. You have to stand up for yourself, and if you can't, please call us. And you would really see that people face so many problems on a daily basis, just because some people feel that they can bully you, because some people feel that just because they are more privileged than you, they have a higher right to live than you do.
Right.
And you see those things happen in front of you. And when you hear those stories, you realize that, there is just so much work to be done, that
it's terrible.
You have to start from day one, because there's so much which needs to be done.
Yeah.
And there are only so many ways. See, obviously, there is only so many ways in which you can do a lot of things. But yeah, so I think that is why, which I, again, was saying that politics, it's not a one-stop solution to all the problems, but it's at least a pedestal which can help you solve a lot of problems.
Wow. You have some amazing anecdotes and stories, about these things. You really show a lot of empathy. It's unbelievable. It's it's a pleasure to have you on this show today. So you're also kind of a natural teacher, and I think you're out there as doing some teaching, being a professor. Like what's that all about?
So basically, ever since I've left law school, I've had this privilege and I have had this honor of being able to teach as a guest lecturer in a lot of colleges. So I keep getting invitations from a lot of colleges from around the country to visit them and deliver guest lectures. And it's something I really like. I like interacting with the students. I think I like public engagement in general. And just as an extension of that, when I'm there, interacting with the students, and a lot of students, so they all come up with me, so obviously helping them, guiding them in their career, doing, what is right, what is wrong. Because see, a lot of people, what happens is that in the legal system also in India, a lot of people who are second generation or third generation lawyers, who had parents or who had grandparents who were lawyers, it's an easier path for you if you want to settle in your career. Because obviously, if you're, say, in litigation, you can join the practice, which is, thriving practice of your grandparents or parents, you can join, or it's easier for you to get jobs, and it's easier for you to find your place amongst the entire setup, like in any other profession in any other country. So, but a lot of people who don't have that, privilege, or who don't have that background. So, just helping them, lending them a ear, listening to what problems they have, because and then guiding them on what's the right way to do. And in general, I think law as a subject, I really love. So when you love to learn something, I think it's even more, and it's even better when you're actually teaching it and you're having that dialogue with, students. And nowadays I've seen students, I've been to law schools. They're so intelligent. They're so brilliant. they have these questions and they have these ideas, and it's just brilliant when you interact with them. And I think that's something I really look forward to, these interactions which I have had. Obviously, for the past 1 year, I've not been able to have those personal one-on-one interactions. And we've had these webinars which are there, and all on Zoom and all those lectures which we've been taking. But it's still been good. At least, even at that time, when I started taking these things up more last year during the pandemic, I think it helps you remain sane with human interaction, and it gives students a lot of confidence in this times of uncertainty. Knowing that people are there to interact with them, knowing that it's the same for everybody.
Right.
Correct. So you're not there alone. I think that fact, when people know that you're not there alone in something, I think that really helps remove a lot of fears which you have in life.
Right. I mean, because I think that leads to some mental health issues, especially like during the COVID time. People are alone. If they live alone, it's kind of like wherever you were, you're stuck, like you got to, I mean, you have to kind of stay there, and that's it. Right. So, okay. Well, what did you almost go to school in Miami, get an LLM in the States? Is that something I read? Okay.
Yeah. So I got 100. So a law school had at that time they were starting this 100% scholarship tie-up with the University of St. Thomas, Minnesota. So we had this scholarship, and I got 100% fully paid. So I got a fully paid scholarship from University of St. Thomas, Minnesota. I interacted with the faculty over there. Everybody was really sweet, really welcoming. But at that time, I somehow decided to stay back, and I took a deferral also for a year. But even the next year after that, I'd gotten really involved in my work, which was over here at that time. And there were a lot of different things I was getting involved with. And there was just so much happening on the work front, and all these legal aid that I was working with and everything, that I, at that time, was not in a mental frame to uproot myself from that and, just take a study leave at that time. Maybe if I would have done it in continuation after college, I would have done it. But once I started working, I think I started involving myself in so many other things at that time that at that particular point, it was very difficult for me to uproot myself. So I don't know. So that is one experience I did not take. Okay. Somewhere down the line, I might decide to do an LLM. Who knows?
You can't do it all, Siddharth. I mean, you're doing a lot. You can't do everything, right? You got to pick and choose, man.
You can't do everything. I have realized this. Especially during the pandemic time, that, you have to realize that there are things you can do, and there are only so many things you can manage.
Right.
It's very nice to just think and plan out this calendar and, just think about that, okay, I have these 24 hours, 2 hours this, 1 hour this, 5 hours this. It's very easy to plan it like that, but maybe not that easy to implement it. So yeah, this is something which I've learned.
Okay. Well, so is there anything we missed? Is there something else that you want to talk about today on the show, on episode 35 of the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold?
No, I think so. My lawyer story is like that only. I started when I was there, when I started law school. I was like, any other student who was, just there to study, just absorb what all is there. And I had this idealistic vision when I started, and not even idealistic. Frankly, I think when I started, I was like, any other person when I started, when I was like carefree about a lot of things that, just law is what I'm going to focus on. But as I started studying, and as I said, I've interacted with people, and as I saw a lot of things, and they really, helped shape my idea of what should be there. As a kid, I've always had a lot of things. I've wanted to do a lot of things.
Yep.
But I think being there in law school, when I won the student body election, that gave me a platform which made me understand that if you want and you apply yourself, there's actually a lot more you can achieve. And maybe not just only for yourself, you can help a lot of people down the way.
Yeah.
And I think that realization stuck with me. And obviously, I think that empathy part, which you keep saying, maybe, so that's obviously, I think growing up, I saw when I was a kid, it was in 9th or 10th, I saw when my father, one day, he became really ill. He got a stroke.
Okay.
So that when I saw him falling ill, and I think growing up, that, I think that was one incident in my life which really changed me overnight. I saw him, being fully, full of his health, being in his prime, and then instantly him having a stroke, and then, all the things which followed. I think that one incident, I can say, really made me grow up overnight as a kid. And that, when I saw that, I think that is something which has always helps me empathize with a lot of things. When I see pain, when I see problems, I realize that life is uncertain. And I understand that anything can happen to anybody. You can be in a position where everything is going fine. Genuinely growing up, I did not think that, I was thinking that everything is fine and everything's hunky-dory. And,
Right.
and one incident can happen, and one day, one moment, his health went, and you realize that how things can change overnight.
Yep.
And that idea that nothing is permanent, that things can change overnight, from good to bad, bad to good, things can happen. That, I think, is really made me empathize a lot. And now when I see people in a problem, I can understand that, because it can happen to anybody. And if I am in a problem, if I would expect somebody to help me out, I think that is the basic courtesy I should afford to everybody. That if I can help somebody out, why not? Because if tomorrow I am in a problem, I would expect that if you can help me, why not? So that's the basic courtesy anybody can afford to anybody. So that motto, and I think that plays a very important role in my life, in everything that I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. That's an amazing way to be and way to think. And, we need more people to think like you in our world. We really do. Because that's like the type
I think we have enough people, and that's why the world is where it is. Otherwise, you never know.
Never know. All right. Well, before we leave, any advice for people who want to go into law, like students? Or
I think law is a beautiful field, and law gives you, and law helps you. It has something for everybody. If today law is such a diverse field that genuinely, whatever may be your passion, say if you're passionate about the environment, you can be big environmental law is coming up. You can fight against those. You can do so many things in law today. And there is something for everybody out there.
Okay.
And I think initially you should come into law with an open mind, absorb what all is there, and then find out what suits you the best.
Right.
I think, like I said, I started when I did everything litigation, thinking that, okay, I want to become a trial lawyer. But ultimately, I found my calling in something else, because there's just so much the profession has to offer you. So come to it with an open mind, give it your best. And I think it's a beautiful profession, and it has something for everybody.
That's great. Siddharth Marwah, everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Everybody get in touch with you.
So you can email me. My email ID is there, and you can just add me on LinkedIn. Siddharth Marwah, I'm there on LinkedIn. Just add me on LinkedIn, and I respond, to everybody with that.
Or of course, contact us, and we'll put you in touch.
Exactly. Everybody who needs to get in touch with me, Benny is the person. He has all my contact details.
Right.
Get in touch with Lawyer Stories. It's a brilliant platform. And again, it's not something he's asked me to say, but I genuinely feel that it's such a nice initiative that you're doing, and you're putting in so much effort in it. And when I see how many people, and the thing with the beauty of it is that even when I reached out to you, you did not know who I was when we initially started, right? And we've come such a long way. So it's only because of the type of person you are, and your idea about being receptive to everybody, bringing everybody there. That is, and genuinely, I think one of the reasons I've been, so involved with Lawyer Stories is that what you are doing is something I genuinely believe in.
Thank you very much.
Kudos for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a passion, and it's become it's become work, first of all. I mean, because it's a lot of people, but that's great. I mean, I love it. It's a passion. I love giving the platform. I've met people from all over the world virtually, really. I mean, we had one networking event right before the pandemic. It was in Miami where we co-sponsored with some nice people there in South Florida. But it's so great to just connect with all these people and connect everybody. And that's really what we're working to do. Like with our website, we'll eventually be able to do that, to have everybody together. But yeah, thank you very much for those kind words.
And hopefully when things settle down around the world and globally, let's have a networking event in India and let's call you here and, let's have something over
wow,
here. Yes.
That could be something else. So
so let things settle down in the world. Let's enter into saner times and let's just do something.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to be with us. I was super excited to get you on and finally talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So everybody out there, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.